Welcome back. We're live here at the New York Summit for AWS. I'm A.M. Grabelny, developer advocate here at AWS, joined by
Richard Boyd, also a developer advocate here at AWS.
Do you even need an intro, Richard?
There's probably one or two people out there who don't know who I am, so it's...
We need to fix that.
Yeah, by one or two, I mean all of them.
This is the show within the show, Richard. This is the show. This is where we take over the stream, okay? We haven't done this in a while.
Yes. This is like pirate radio, like we just take over the station?
That's right.
Yes, okay.
This is Code Corner. So we're no longer AWS On Air live at the New York Summit. We're now Code Corner.
Live on air at the New York Summit.
That's right. That's right. So this is Code Corner. I'm one of your hosts, A.M. Grabelny. You may have seen Code Corner in the past with my old friend and co-host, Steve Roberts.
Yes.
But Steve is no longer a co-host on Code Corner, no longer at AWS. Brings a tear to my eye every time I think about it, so I'm going to move on quickly from this, Richard.
Done.
But we're relaunching.
And I'm your rebound host.
You're my rebound host. You're helping me to get over the loss of Steve. Can you speak with a British accent, though? Because this was branded originally as Amster and the Brits Code Corner, and we already made all the merch.
On advice of my counsel, I've been instructed not to impersonate those of the British persuasion.
No accents at all. Okay, that's smart.
Ever since the incident.
All right. We also have a third co-host joining Code Corner as well. This is a big announcement for you all, the 6 Code Corner fans out there.
Yeah.
Anna Spies will be joining us. She's not here with us today, but she will be joining us on the regular on Code Corner, which you can watch on whatever channel you're watching right now on Thursdays. If you've never seen Code Corner, we should probably do an intro about what the show covers, right?
Yep.
Richard, what do you think the show covers? You haven't been on yet.
No, so my understanding is that it's like corners with code in it. So it's like if it's a square, there's only 4 of them. But if it's a triangle, there's only 3. That was explained to me when I signed the contract.
I can't believe how right I was to pick you as a co-host.
Nice.
No, that's incredibly wrong.
Story of my life.
It's okay. It's actually a show about how to learn how to code. So all we cover are topics related to how to code. All right, so if you're a beginner, we've got a section for you called Beginner's Corner.
Okay.
If you're more advanced, we've got Project Corner. So Project Corner is where we cover things like how do I actually code using the AWS services, right? And build something that's less about the architecture. We'll cover architecture, obviously, but more about like, okay, now that we've decided an architecture, where does the code and the architecture kind of coalesce? How do I actually start implementing my architecture with a programming language, for example?
Okay.
So those are our 2 sections typically. We also cover, at the beginning of the show, just what's been going on in our coding experiences. We talk to the audience about their coding experiences, answer any questions they've got. Because a lot of people are new to coding. Once upon a time, I didn't know how to code, Richard.
Really? I didn't know that. I thought you were born a fully formed coder. Like you sprang into this world from the sea foam of the ocean with the Dvorak keyboard under one arm and an ergonomic mouse under the other.
No, I mean, that's a beautiful painting that you just...
It's like Aphrodite, but it's like you in a big seashell with...
What a ChatGPT Dolly prompt that you just created. I can't wait to see what that comes up with. But no, I had to learn how to code. I'm sure you had to learn how to code at one point. Or have you yet?
I'm still learning.
Yeah, me too. Okay. We all should still be learning. So if you are interested in learning how to code, be sure to tune into the show. But we're going to do a live episode here for you today.
Nice.
And so, Richard, I prepared something for Project Corner.
Okay.
Did you have a question there?
No, I was just, I lost my train of thought. I apologize. I got distracted. There was somebody over there. I can't even come up with an excuse. I'm sorry.
Were you thinking about the Barbie movie?
I was. Just when I think about like how great it would be to live in the Malibu Dream Beach House.
Yeah.
I forget the permutation there. It's just my eyes glaze over, and I spend the whole day daydreaming about how great it would be. Spending my day at the beach with Ken.
Okay. Well, I've got a question for you to get us back on
back on track.
Project Corner. So we're gonna be building something today in the 14, 15 minutes or so we've got left. If you've got questions too, Richard's got chat pulled up. I'm going to be sharing my screen soon, so I won't be able to look at chat. But Richard will inform me if anybody has anything that they would like to investigate further or questions. To get us back on track, what is New York City most known for, Richard?
Apples. It is the largest apple in the world.
It's a good answer.
Yes.
I can't dispute that's a good answer.
Yes.
But no, it's romantic comedies. So many rom-coms set in New York City.
Okay.
You know, all the big ones. You've got Correspondence.
Yeah, of course. Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs up. It's the only movie they've ever given 2 thumbs up to.
when Carrie met Salfield. Look, I can't use the real names of these movies, so I'm making them up. We don't have the licensing to reference these, but a lot of romantic comedies set in New York City, and that's what it's most known for. Undisputed.
Oh, I just put together the second one. I'm like 30 seconds behind on the jokes.
Starring Billy Geode.
Yes.
And Megalodon Brian.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So you're with me now.
Yes.
All right. So
I'm caught up.
I love rom-coms.
Okay.
Big fan. Big fan.
What is a rom-com?
Romantic comedy. So it's where, you've got 2 people that you don't know that they should be together. They have a meet cute, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And then gradually they fall in love.
Okay.
We follow their story. There's usually a best friend character who urges the other person, go out and get him or her, or...
Okay. Does the best friend ever tell them not to do it?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes the best friend character's cast is like a...
Like a wicked stepmother?
Yeah. Like a meddling type character. Look, rom-coms. They're great.
Yes.
I also love like card battler games, like Magic the Gathering, or... I don't know why I'm allowed to say that, but not the name of the... Yeah. It doesn't really lend to the comedy that I've got for the card thing, for me to use the real titles of the rom-coms, so that's why I've chosen not to do that. But Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah. I thought, wow, nobody's done a rom-com card battler yet. How'd we miss this?
Yeah, I know. It's a sector ripe for disruption.
It lends itself right there. So let's go... If we can, let me pull up my screen, and I'm going to show you the concept art. That actually, I paid a lot of money for this.
Like you hired an actual architect, or you just put a lot of money into Dolly to generate these?
No, these are not generated. These are handmade.
Artisanal, small batch cards.
That's right.
Okay.
So these are made by hand, and like I said, I paid a lot of money to the designer for this. All right, so we've got my screen pulled up. This is Dan Baldwin. He's a sad architect.
He doesn't look very sad.
Well, this is because he's talking on the phone to his potential love interest.
Oh, so this is when... Okay, got it.
Yeah, this is...
He puts on a brave face.
Yes, he was a sad architect because he couldn't find love, and now maybe he called into a radio station. Actually, his son called into a radio station.
Okay.
So, just like any card game, it's got rules.
Yep.
So the whole point of the game, in my mind, that I've cooked up so far, is that you have locations, and you got love interests that you want to fall in love at those locations.
Okay.
Okay. And each card has different rules about it. So.
Oh, I've seen this. Like when I go on the internet, and it's like singles near you, and it's like I assume that's near my location.
A little different.
Okay.
Richard.
So I can't find a Dan Baldwin if I click on that link for singles near me?
You might. You might.
Okay.
If you want a Dan Baldwin.
They're every bit as real as Dan.
Really, you're going to find a Dan Baldwin at the top of the Transco Tower. Because this movie was filmed in 1993, it was still called the Transco Tower in Houston, Texas, obviously. Okay. This is, of course, from the hit movie, Very Tired in Toronto. So, you have to move Dan to the Transco Tower. You can't start him in Houston. He starts in Toronto. But if Toronto's not out, you got to move him to a different city, but you can't pick Houston. So you got to get him to Houston. You got to get his love interest to Houston. and they got to meet at the top of the Transco Tower. You get double points if it's Valentine's Day. All right?
Valentine's Day when he gets to the tower, or when you play it, or if you're playing by yourself on Valentine's Day.
You know, I haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
We've also got a You Have Correspondence card, and this is so you can disguise one of your love interests. So I bring these cards up just because we're going to be modeling these for a database.
Okay.
Right? Because you have to store these cards somewhere if you're going to have a game.
Route 53.
That is what Corey Quinn's favorite database.
Yes,
I think
is.
that is the.
I think that's the only one he uses.
The perennial joke,
Yes,
I believe. Yes, yeah, no, we'll be using DocumentDB today, which is compatible with MongoDB. You could also use something like MongoDB Atlas for this, which is one of my personal favorites to use. You can go to the AWS Marketplace, fire up MongoDB Atlas, go check that out too. But we're using DocumentDB today. I've already set it up. We'll go take a look real quick. Let's see. Okay. So we've got a DocumentDB cluster. I picked an Elastic cluster, too, so I don't have to like
Scale it.
mess around with scaling and
Nice.
all that stuff, right? So we've got, here's our, this is if you want to use the Mongo CLI tool, right?
Okay.
So Mongo has a couple of tools out there for connecting to the database, right? So we're going to have to learn today, Richard, how to connect to the database, and then we're going to learn how to put data into the database, right? And we're going to have to figure out like what parts of the cards. This is where I'm going to need your help.
Okay.
Like what parts of the cards go in the database? Should all the text on the screen go in the database? Should we just embed it directly into the image? Probably not, right?
No.
The card costs, right? Should they come from there? So what parts are dynamic? What parts are just part of the image? And what parts are we going to need to facilitate the gameplay, right?
Okay.
So we're going to go ahead and looks like
I think your SSH connection timed out.
I think you're right, but that's okay. Let's see. It's reconnecting. It's reconnecting. I'll let that go for a minute. As I said, we've got this this option to connect through the Mongo CLI, but we're writing an application, right? So that's not going to work. Well, I may just have to drop into our friend VS Code, or not VS Code, our friend Cloud9 directly. How about that?
I wouldn't oppose that.
Okay, yeah, you're a fan.
Yeah, it's in my top 10 favorite IDs.
Yeah, we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to drop in direct to Cloud9 while this is starting up.
That's why it's the instance stopped. So once that instance starts back up, you should be able to reconnect to it.
Oh, great. I should have probably done that before we went live. Yeah.
Well, you did. I think while you were talking on the intro segment is when it went idle. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I talk too much is what you're saying.
You said it, not me.
All right, so maybe I can reconnect. What do you think?
Fingers crossed.
It'll probably ask me for a password here. Just a second.
Yeah, and I saw it on the screen. Your password is insert password.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is very
the
secure.
most secure. Who would guess that? Who would guess that someone would pick a password, insert password?
Nobody. But it's okay. Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Oh, I was
It's all right. But that is an option, actually. One of my favorite ways to connect up and use a Cloud9 instance, you can actually set up an SSH key in Cloud9 and connect over VS Code into Cloud9 directly if you want.
Yes.
So I'm going to show us two ways of connecting to the database today, Richard. And we're going to talk through some concepts about why you would want to connect to a database directly or why you might want to use a different kind of library called an ORM or an ODM. Both of those terms talk a little bit about
All right. I'm
object
excited.
relational mapper or object document mapper, right? And we'll explain what those mean in just a minute. All right. So we're gonna just go with the regular driver approach. So we're gonna connect directly to the database. We're gonna make all the calls through the driver, right? And it's going to be just all the features of DocumentDB that you can utilize with nothing built on top of it, just the driver, right?
Yep.
Direct connect to a database. What's your preferred method when you're building out a database layer?
Probably, I like the direct connect, especially when I'm getting started, when I haven't really had time to think about like what are the right abstractions I'm going to want. Because eventually you get to the point where like you've got the fields in your database that you want to add,
Yeah.
but you don't want everyone who puts something in your database to have to like specify the field themselves,
Right.
For every time and have it. So eventually you'll build, someone on your team will be like, oh, I made this helper that like you give it this notion of like your business logic of a playing card. It takes a playing card and it does the mapping, but you don't necessarily know what that abstraction is up front. So I usually start with the lower level one until we have a better understanding of what the abstractions are that we're working with,
Yeah.
and then build like the higher level client around that.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I like that approach a lot. So we're going to start kind of with that in mind, right? But then we're going to move over to a library that actually does a lot of what you're talking about for us.
Okay.
It's called Mongoose. Spoilers. We haven't gotten to that yet, but it's called Mongoose. I'm going to go line by line here. So we've got, I'm actually using Secrets Manager to store my username and password for DocumentDB. So one of the things about DocumentDB is when you create a cluster, you give it a username and a password. You probably shouldn't hard code those values into your code directly. So I've chosen to implement Secrets Manager to handle that for me. You could probably do it with environment variables. There's a number of other approaches.
I put mine on a sticky note under my laptop.
That's great. Under the laptop.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, I used to put it under my keyboard, but now it's like the warranty people at the laptop manufacturer got mad at me because I kept stuffing sticky notes inside the laptop under the keyboard. So I was asked to stop doing that.
That was smart of them. So
Yes.
I've got the two values I need to connect to my database. I've got the cluster endpoint here. These are all found, in DocumentDB. If we come back to DocumentDB, I can show you. If we go to configuration, it'll give us our where is it? Cluster endpoint right there.
Yeah.
So we need that to connect. We need the username, the password, and I'm constructing it all in this connection string. And then the MongoDB driver, right, has a client connection. So I instantiate that, right? This TLS certificate file is so I can communicate over TLS to DocumentDB. Another thing to know about DocumentDB is you can communicate outside of a VPC, but you have to do some additional setup, have like an SSH proxy, something like that. I'm directly in the VPC due to Cloud9, right?
Yeah.
So your DocumentDB gets deployed out to a VPC, right? It's within one or more subnets, and you have to be able to communicate in that subnet to whatever you're going to use this driver from. Yeah. I'm using Cloud9. It's on an EC2 instance that also gets in the same subnet as.
And that control over the subnets, that's from the security groups for the subnets?
Yes, you would come in and put. I think it's 27017 is the port for Mongo or for DocumentDB that the Mongo driver is going to be utilizing. But you put that in the connection string here too. So look, I've got this set up. All I'm doing is I use the driver to insert one. That's a document, right? So I'm inserting whatever JSON that I want here, right? Like it's actually technically I think BSON, but I'm doing.
What's VSON?
B binary JSON. It's a storage.
Are
format.
you mispronouncing bison, like
yes,
the buffalo?
That's right. I am.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I've only seen it written, never heard it.
Oh, then I can't fault you for that.
Yeah.
That means you're a well-read person.
So we're running real tight on time.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I at least want to run this one here. So I'm going to come in here and do node main. And this will just show you that, look, so I saved Hello Barbie, but I'm looking for Hello Kin. Hello Kin's not there. If I switch this and say Hello Kin instead, there we go. So there's it created that object. I can also find Hello Barbie here if I come back. So to your point, Richard, right? I have full control over the properties that are stored, right? I could change hello to hello 1, and it's not going to complain. It's schemaless. It's NoSQL. There isn't a schema. Some people like the constraints of a schema, especially when you're working in a larger project with a lot more people who might just accidentally mistype, right? And now you've got a new property on your document. So we're not going to have time to cover this completely, but Mongoose is an object document mapper. that will provide you with this schema, right? So you define out a schema here, just like you would in code, and then Mongoose helps you enforce that through your code. If you want to see the rest of this,
Yes. Where would I see that? Where would I go see that?
whatever channel you're watching on right now, come join us August 17th, which is going to be our first episode back with Code Corner. We'll continue this discussion there.
We'll pick up right where we left off.
That's right. That's right. So join us then. You'll be with me, Richard, and Anna at that point. Yeah. And we can't wait to see you. But we got to run. We'll be back with more content. Stay tuned.